Hey, it's Tamie M here of TamieMCoaching.com, empowerment life coach and creator of the Freedom Class. And in this video, I'm going to teach you how to rebuild yourself after narcissistic abuse so you can finally begin to heal and recover the right way. And ideally, never fall prey to emotional manipulation or psychological abuse ever again. Now, before I begin this video, I just want to quickly announce that we actually have a few spots available in the calendar this week for the free one-to-one consult with either myself or a member of my team for the Freedom Class program to see if we'd be a good fit for working together. So if that's of interest to you, be sure to stick around till the end of the video for the announcement on that. And with that, let's get started. So let's talk about how to rebuild yourself after narcissistic abuse. First and foremost, it's important to understand that the sick person is actually the narcissist, right? Look, normal, healthy, well-adjusted people don't go through life feeling entitled to target, diminish, demean, insult, abandon, neglect, attack, or otherwise harm another individual. But destructive narcissists do. Now, the fact that they're actually mentally, emotionally, and spiritually ill is no excuse for their appalling attitudes and behavior. But where you're concerned, it is an explanation with regards to what it is that you've been dealing with that should help you let go of the illusion of control, the hope that they'll change. They don't change. If they land on the spectrum of destructive narcissism, they're not going to change. So surrendering to the reality of who and what you're dealing with, accepting that this is what it is, understanding that you're dealing with someone who is on some level, to some degree, if not a large degree, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually unwell, should help you accept it for what it is. Again, let go of the illusion of control, let go of any hope of change, and also let go of the pain that you've endured, or at least begin to let go and release some of the pain that you've endured as a result of having been a victim of narcissistic abuse. It's a whole lot easier to not take it so personally, even though I understand I've been there many times, countless times, in fact. It's hard when we're wounded and we love an individual and they matter to us to not take their attack, their criticism, their judgment, their condemnation, their betrayal, their smear campaigns. It's hard not to take it personally, but I'll tell you, it's a whole lot easier when we gain a little perspective and understand they're actually the deficient and defective ones, not us, even though, of course, that's certainly what they'd prefer that we believe. So just know, if you've been narcissistically abused in any area of your life, you've actually been on the receiving end of a very sick individual's projections. They project their own deeply buried subconscious self-hate and self-loathing onto their favorite chosen target, right? So that clearly, if you've been narcissistically abused, has been you to this point. So it's important to understand that that's what's really going on. And whatever remarks they've made actually are not necessarily an accurate assessment of who you are. Certainly, we may have some work to do. Certainly, we may have some healing and recovery to do. We may have some areas in our own life where we need to improve. But when we're talking about the realm of narcissistic abuse, more often than not, all that's going on is they're projecting their disowned shadow onto us. And we're operating in a place where we're dealing with an individual who not only has often a large amount of disowned shadow to project in our direction, but they actually, sadly for them, have no real ability to give and receive healthy love. So when we understand that this is actually what's going on, again, it's a whole lot easier to not take this stuff so deeply personally. Next, spend some time writing the experiences that you've had in this relationship out in a journal. Journal out your relationship experience. There's something about taking pen to paper, that focused attention, and writing out the truth of our experience, all the details, all the feelings, all the ugly truth of it all, getting it all out in black and white. First and foremost, you'll begin to purge some of that pent up, toxic, negative pain, trauma, drama, emotion, right? So you're getting it out, you're getting it all out in black and white. But more importantly, if you're consistent, if you do this, preferably daily, say for example, over the course of the next few weeks, and then go back and read through the experience. It may not be, totally comfortable to do so. Certainly, we're diving into the pain of it all. But the reality is, like I said, we're purging to some degree some of the pain, the toxic emotion, the drama, the negativity, etc. But more importantly, when we go back and reread, we'll be able to spot patterns that have actually been taking place in our life subconsciously. And for many of us, that's not just in this one container. For some of us, it is the container of, say, a 2 or 3 decades long marriage. But for many of us, we'll recognize that there's actually patterns that have been playing out unconsciously, relationship after relationship after relationship. And for the vast majority of us who find ourselves in this position, having these kinds of experiences, we'll begin to connect dots to where we first had these experiences in our family of origin, early childhood experiences that programmed us in a certain way. So by journaling out, even though it might not feel fun or uncomfortable initially, it's a very healthy practice to get into, in particular when we're wanting to shift out of the pain and the muck and the mire of these experiences and into a better place, rebuilding ourselves after narcissistic abuse, right? A very healthy practice. Get out your journal, get it all out in black and white. Go back over it as often as you feel the need to begin to connect the dots and shine the light of your conscious awareness onto the experience so that you can connect the dots of the patterns that have been playing out. So in other words, we shine the light of our conscious awareness on the experience so that we can make conscious what has been subconscious or unconscious to this point. Once we do that, we're really stepping into our power in terms of our ability to up-level, heal, shift, transmute the pain, and shift into a much healthier and more empowered place. Now, the other thing that you want to do when you're going back over what you've been journaling out day in and day out over the course of at least a few weeks is imagine your best friend telling you the story of your experience. We're often so incredibly hard on ourselves. How could I be so stupid to fall for that line again? Why do I keep going back? Each time it hurts more. And there's a whole lot to that is beyond the scope of this particular video. But suffice to say, if you go back and read through your experience from the perspective of this is your best friend telling you the story, tell yourself the truth. How would you respond to your best friend if your best friend came to you sharing the truth of this experience? Would you perhaps be more compassionate, more tolerant, more kind, more gentle, more loving, more supportive, more patient with your best friend than you have with yourself? Would you perhaps try to impress upon your best friend the truth of who they really are versus all of the negative comments and projections and criticisms and judgment that are causing all of this self-doubt and this fear and this insecurity? Would you perhaps be working to help your best friend sift through the nonsense, the garbage, the bullshit, the lies, so that they could see the truth of who they really are? Well, if you approach your journaling practice as such, you'll be able, hopefully, to begin to be your own best friend. It's a choice. It's a choice you can make, right? We really need to learn to be so much more gentle, kind, and loving with ourselves when we are extricating ourselves from an abusive, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, psychologically, and sadly, sometimes even physically or sexually abusive situation, no matter who that is. When we're extracting ourselves and we're trying to rebuild ourselves after having endured whatever abusive experience it may have been for you. For some of us, that's decades of abuse before we get to the place of beginning our healing and recovery and beginning the work of rebuilding ourselves. Whatever that is for you, becoming your own best friend, learning to be gentle, kind, and loving with yourself. I'm telling my clients all the livelong day, every opportunity, I am reminding them, be gentle, kind, and loving with yourself. Approach your healing and recovery as your own best friend, your own soul sister, your own, soul brother, your own soul aligned best friend and support system. And the reason we want to be gentle, kind, and loving with ourselves while approaching the situation as our own best friend is we make progress so much faster when we do. When we are continuing to berate, criticize, diminish, demean, and condemn ourselves inside our own head, we just perpetuate the cycles of abuse. We don't need the abuser in the room. We just keep it going, right? So it's vital that we do this for ourselves. People who land on the spectrum of destructive narcissism tend to make wild accusations and blame and criticize in such a way that it's clear that their intent is really deliberate, conscious, often premeditated intent to cause harm. Often as much harm as they can manage in the moment, right? There's all kinds of reasons that they behave this way, again, beyond the scope of this video. But when we devote ourselves to a journaling practice and we choose to be our own best friend and we're working to become progressively more and more gentle, kind, and loving with ourselves, and we're rereading through the truth of our experience in this relationship, again, no matter who it is, this might be an ex-boyfriend, an ex-husband, it might be your mother, your sister, your addicted, friend, your alcoholic sibling, it could, whoever it is, right? When we approach it in this fashion, we begin to see just how ridiculous their wild accusations are, just how ridiculous many of their insults and criticisms are. And again, this isn't to say that, we're perfect and holier than thou and that we don't have areas to work on or things to improve, but we're talking about the realm of narcissistic abuse, right? So by virtue of journaling out your experience and going over what you've journaled after a period of time with, the mindset of a lab technician with a clipboard in a laboratory, like you're really looking for clarity and truth and evidence of, what's real based on this experience. When you approach it from that standpoint, you start to realize just how utterly ridiculous some of what you have experienced, if not most of what you've experienced, if not all of what you've experienced, just how utterly ridiculous, off the charts, insane even, a lot of this is. And it makes it so much easier to begin to let go of all the garbage that's been heaped onto you so that you can rebuild your sense of self-love and self-esteem. Or, for some of us, start to build that for the first time in our lives ever, right? Whichever it is for you, whether, it's starting from ground zero or, coming back to that place where you have a healthy sense of self-love, self-esteem, whichever it is for you. This practice is mighty, mighty powerful to help you get clear, release, purge, sift through all the garbage, sift through all the nonsense, sift through all the crazy making insanity, and see it all for what it really is. And again, when we do that, a whole lot easier not to take their nonsense so freaking personally. Now, it's important to remember that what you do not want to do while you're doing this daily journaling exercise is replay their voice and their, critical messages in your head. Um, Ruminating over and over and over what they said, what they did, what they didn't say, what they didn't do, and the why. What did they mean? Are they right? Maybe they're right. Maybe I am crazy. Maybe I am the problem. Maybe I am defective. Maybe I am deficient. When we replay that type over and over again, that tape rather, over and over again, we don't need the abuser. We don't need the narcissist in the room, right? We just perpetuate the cycle of abuse. So it's important that, we're conscious, we're making the conscious choice to catch ourselves if we're in the midst of ruminating over their nonsensical, often insane, deeply hurtful, deeply harmful messages, attacks, criticisms, etc., right? We're often trying to make sense out of nonsense, make sense out of crazy, out of full-blown, next level, off the charts insanity. And the truth is, that's a good way to get sick. We're never going to make sense out of nonsense. We're never going to make sense out of crazy. We're never going to make sense out of some of the stuff that we've been on the receiving end of in the realm of narcissistic abuse, because the reality is it doesn't make sense. It's next level insanity often. And what's so painful about that for us is we're trying to understand where this individual is coming from, and we don't get that this is not a level playing field, right? We're not coming to this game with this type of individual on a level playing field. If you're tuning into me, chances are good you're a full-blown empath, at the very least a highly empathic individual, and you're trying to make sense out of an empathy deficient, if not fully conscienceless individual, their attitudes and their behavior. You're never going to understand. As a highly empathic individual, you're never going to be able to make sense of that. You're never going to be able to understand where it is that they're coming from. So when you catch yourself ruminating over, why did they say that? Why did they do that? Why didn't they do XYZ? I would have done XYZ. I would have said XYZ. I would never do XYZ. Understand their intent from an empathy deficient, conscienceless place was fully to harm you, period. End of story. You don't need to know more. You don't need to understand it any more than that. That is the bottom line truth of it. See it for what it is. Understand that they might as well be coming from a different planet. Empathy deficient versus high empathy. It's not a level playing field. You're not approaching the game of life or love from the same perspective, from the same mindset, from the same heart space, right? So just know their intent, if they hurt you repeatedly, it's a pattern. Their intent is to hurt you. Accept that it is what it is. Now your job is to take care of yourself, to do what you need to do to love yourself accordingly. Next, get moving. Listen, I get it. When we've had our heart smashed to smithereens for, the 1000th time, or we are perpetually under attack by, really toxic, abusive, narcissistic family members, or, anyone in our life, it's freaking painful. And we want to really just curl up in a fetal position. And I've been there many times. I understand the pain, but here's the thing. Laying in a fetal position, sucking our thumb isn't helping us rebuild ourselves after narcissistic abuse. So yes, you want to be gentle, kind, and loving with yourself. And if the pain is that kind of intense, certainly allow yourself a little bit of time to convalesce, really. Allow yourself a few days of that behavior if that's what you need, but don't let it go past that. Whatever it takes, get yourself moving. whatever it takes. Get yourself moving, walking outside in the fresh air, absorbing vitamin D, exercise preferably if you're able to. If the pain is so debilitating, you absolutely must be seeking out help one way or another. If you can afford a coach, a coaching program, a therapist, a counselor, by all means. Your job is to support yourself no matter what. If budget is an issue, because let's be real, financial abuse is part of narcissistic abuse, right? It part and parcel. So if, I talk to single moms every day. Some of them, I was on the phone with 2 ladies yesterday who both are single moms of 5 children, right? So, sometimes the challenge is, as much as we're ready, willing, and able to put our hand up for support, to put our hand up for help, we're unable to because we're worried about how we're going to, keep a roof over our head and take care of the kids, right? So if that's the case, there are plenty of options out there that actually don't involve a financial investment. So seek out help. 12-step recovery can be a great place to go. Doesn't cost you anything. It actually, these meetings are taking place. Used to be, before COVID, in church basements and community centers all over the world every single day. Now it's more accessible even than that. Online, digital meetings are available. But the point is, you want to get off the couch, get out of bed, leave your room, leave your home, get moving, and again, find ways to support yourself, whatever it takes. If you can invest in something formal, excellent. If you're unable to, there's plenty of resources and options available out there that don't require a financial investment. So get moving and support yourself. Do the things that you really love to do before the narcissistic abuse began, before you were in a situation where you were being controlled and isolated and ridiculed and criticized and condemned and all of that. And we lose our sense of self when we're in that type of relationship. I've been there many times. We come out and we're like, who the hell am I even, right? So all of the things that you used to love to do pre-narcissistic abuse, it's time to start re-engaging in those activities. Whatever you do, get yourself moving, get the blood flowing, breathing fresh air, shifting the perspective, taking your nose out of your navel, taking, and I don't mean this is any, sort of insult, or I don't mean to be condescending. Again, I've been there myself countless times, in agony on the couch. And a couple of days of that, a couple of days of diving into a pint of ice cream to deal with, my wounded heart, fine. Beyond that, it's our responsibility to do what we need to do to exercise extreme self-care, to support ourselves entirely, to put our hand up and ask for help one way or the other, preferably surrounding ourselves with a support group, a support system of people who not only get the problem, but more importantly, understand the solution. People who have walked the walk and actually are living from a place of solution-oriented perspective. Find yourself that type of support system. This is vital. If you're isolating in a place of, retreating from the world, trying to white knuckle your way through this painful process, it's going to be very difficult for you to rebuild yourself after narcissistic abuse. Get moving, support yourself, find your people, and one foot in front of the other. A sponsor of mine used to say many years ago, bring the body, the mind will follow. Very wise words. Bring the body, the mind will follow. Often when we're in a place of pain, the last thing we want to do is go to church or go to a meeting or get online and join a tribe of people, right? Often when we're in that place of excruciating pain, that's the last thing we want to do. But if we can muster up enough willpower to get ourselves to the place, whatever that is, for you to get ourselves to the place where we're doing the right thing for ourselves in this moment, just here, just now, today, in the now. 99.9% of the time, we're really glad we did. And that's all it takes to shift our perspective and shift our energetic calibration and begin to move us in the direction of getting better and rebuilding ourselves. So that's a big one. Now, next on the list is breathe and decide to drop the victim stance. Now, the truth is, those of us who have been narcissistically abused have without question been victimized. That's just the truth. But there's a big difference between acknowledging that, yes, I've had this experience, whether it was just for this last month, this last 6 months, or my whole entire life, where I was without question victimized, telling ourselves the truth about our experience, and living our lives from a perpetual place of I'm a victim as my identity, right? There's a big difference between the two. Yes, tell yourself and where appropriate others the truth of your experience. And there's no question that we have been victimized when we've been on the receiving end of narcissistic abuse. And some of us horrifically so, without question. But that doesn't mean that we have to go through life living as a victim. This is just a question of making a decision in terms of a shift in perspective. That doesn't mean we live in denial and we pretend the victimization doesn't happen. No, 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 no. We take responsibility for our experiences and our healing and our recovery process, however we choose to go about that for ourselves as individuals, while simultaneously deciding that, yes, I may have been victimized, but I refuse to live my life from a victim perspective. A happy, healthy, love-filled, abundant, productive life is actually your birthright. And you cannot live your birthright if you are identifying as a victim. So this is truly a shift in perspective. It might not happen instantly for you. It might take a little bit of work on your healing and recovery path, but truly just breathing, coming back to you over and over again, coming back to yourself, feeling into your body, although that may be uncomfortable in the early stages as you're beginning to rebuild yourself because you're getting in touch with all the old owies and all those uncomfortable feelings. But truly, in my experience, both personally and professionally, there's no other way, right? So breathing, coming back to you, feeling into your body, accepting the reality that, yes, I have certainly been victimized in my life, while simultaneously deciding, no way am I living from a victim mentality or a victim perspective. I am willing, I am ready, I am willing to go to any lengths, as they would say in 12-step. I am ready to let go of that victim mentality and live from a place of personal empowerment, whatever it takes. The difference this will make for you, just that switch in perspective, even if you have to make that decision over and over and over again for a while until it becomes, this decision to live from a more empowered place becomes your new identity. It may take some time to shift your identity in that regard. The difference that this one makes, huge, huge. Next on the list, affirmations. You want to begin to affirm daily. I do enough. I am enough. I'm good enough. I do enough. I am enough. I'm good enough. I do enough. I am enough. I'm good enough. You want to affirm that for yourself over and over and over again to begin to rewire what's going on in your head, erasing the old negative BS lies that you've been fed. And for some of us, that's our whole life, and replacing it with the truth of who you really are. You do enough, you are enough, you are good enough. You do enough, you are enough, you are good enough. Now, if you want to make this super, super powerful, I recommend that you do this in the mirror, eyeball to eyeball. You look yourself in the eyes and you tell yourself daily, I do enough, I am enough, I am good enough. Breathe. I do enough, I am enough, I'm good enough. Breathe. I do enough, I am enough, I'm good enough. And the most powerful time to do this exercise is first thing in the morning, within the first 15 minutes of waking. And the reason for that is that's when we have the easiest access to our subconscious mind to begin to reprogram our subconscious mind, our deep-seated personal identity, all the nonsense we've been on the receiving end of, whether that was just your last relationship or your whole life with your family of origin, has imprinted you to some degree and for many of us, a very large degree with regards to a lack of self-esteem, self-worth, self-love. You know, when you're on the receiving end of all of these lies and distortions about who you are and who you are not, in particular, if those messages were imprinted on you in the first 7 years of life by deeply unconscious people, no matter who they were, people in positions of authority over you, we go through life without realizing that only 5% of the game of life is conscious and 95% of the game of life is subconscious. And all of those lies and distortions that were projected onto us in childhood, that were imprinted into our subconscious, are actually the place that we're living from. This is our subconscious identity. So by developing a practice, in particular, first thing in the morning, eyeball to eyeball in the mirror, reprogramming your subconscious mind by affirming something as simple as I do enough, I am enough, I am good enough. And of course, feel free to add any other positive affirmations that you would like to become true about who you are and your experience. Add them to the list. But even if you start with simple messages like that, 5 minutes every morning, first thing in the morning, inside of the first 15 minutes of waking, you're going to start to live from that place of feeling like I do enough, I am enough, I'm good enough. And from there, you're actually affecting the foundation in a very positive way. You're reprogramming your subconscious. And from that place, you can really begin to rebuild yourself after narcissistic abuse in a very strong way, on a very strong foundation. It starts with something that simple, consistent repetition, positive affirmations while looking yourself in the eyes. I tell you, it's the simple stuff that is most powerful. Now, you know, this is something that we dive into in my program, and my clients often report to me, and I remember being there many years ago myself as well, that it's very uncomfortable initially. You know, some of you can't even look yourself in the eyes in the mirror. And if you looked yourself in the eyes in the mirror and affirmed something positive like, I do enough, I am enough, I am good enough, the well would actually burst, right? Well, I'm going to tell you that that's actually a very positive thing. Do not be afraid of this exercise because you might cry or you might get emotional or it's uncomfortable at first. The more uncomfortable it is, the more you may weep as a result of positive affirmation, eyeball to eyeball, the more important it is that you do it. The more important it is that you do it. If you are not in a place where you can look yourself in the eyes in the mirror and tell yourself just how freaking fabulous you are, how much you love yourself, how good you are, the fact that you do enough, you are good enough, you are more than enough. If you are not there yet, you need to get there. You need to get there. And it's just a simple exercise like that, day in and day out. And whatever pain you may touch on when you embark on that simple exercise, let yourself Feel the pain, let the tears come, let the dam burst, let it go. Let that release happen, and keep up with that practice and that exercise, and watch how quickly you will begin to rebuild yourself and your sense of self-love and self-esteem after narcissistic abuse. Powerful stuff, I promise you. Now, more important than anything when it comes to rebuilding yourself after narcissistic abuse is that you be patient with yourself. Rebuilding your sense of self-love, self-worth, self-esteem after you have been targeted, manipulated, abandoned, neglected, abused, manipulated, and targeted some more by someone who lands on the spectrum of destructive narcissism is not an overnight process. It takes time. It takes time. So be patient with yourself and be willing to go the distance. You deserve to live from a place of healthy self-esteem, a sense of self-love, a sense of personal empowerment. You absolutely and fully deserve that. So it's not like flicking a switch. It's really vital that, we, again, are gentle, kind, and loving with ourselves as we convalesce and get on the path of healing and recovery. It's vital that we're patient with ourselves and that we understand that this may take some time. It might take some devoted, concerted, consistent, disciplined effort, but you are worth it. You are so worth the effort. And with that, I'm going to call it a wrap. My friends, I hope you got some value out of this today. If you liked what you heard, remember to like, comment, and share. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new to my channel, and hit that bell to be notified when I post new videos throughout the week. And as I mentioned at the top of the video, we have a few spots available in our calendar this week for the free one-to-one consult with either myself or a member of my team to find out whether or not we'd be a good fit for working together in my 8-week transformational coaching program, the Freedom Class. So if that's of interest to you, be sure to check out the link in the description below where you can apply to see if you qualify for a free one-on-one consultation. And as always, I'm going to leave you with this. Know your value. Know your value and unlock your freedom. Much love. Bye for now.